Join me for my monthly savings and investments video where I show you where my money goes for the month of February, how I invest it, where I'm saving it and what I'm saving for, and what my long-term goals are and how I'm ultimately building towards financial independence and being able to retire early. In this video, I'm going to break down in detail for you where the money that comes out of my budget every month that's allocated towards savings and investments, where I put that money and what my goals are for each of those channels to help me build towards my long-term future. If that all sounds good to you and it sounds like something you're interested in, hopefully this video will provide you with some tips and helpful anecdotes that will allow you to be able to budget more efficiently yourself and help build your savings and investment pots to ultimately lead you towards your financial goals in the future as well. But without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, my name is Lewis and welcome back to the channel where here we talk about everything to do with personal finance, growing your money and finance education. And in today's video, we're going to go into detail on how, and it's a video I run every month on showing you where the money that I allocate in my budget for savings and investments actually goes. So what channels I split that across, what type of investment accounts I'm talking about, and also my pension and how much money comes out of my salary before it hits my budget spreadsheet that goes towards my pension. All of that ultimately leads towards my long-term goal, which is financial independence and being able to retire early. So I'll also show you where I'm on track to be able to retire early and what sort of numbers I'm looking at for when I retire. So if all of those things are things that you're interested in and things that you want to understand more, then this video is going to help break it down for you. But without waiting any longer, I'm going to pop my financial spreadsheet up on the screen, which has got all of my finances including in it, how much I budget every month, plus the savings and investments, and we'll get started in showing you where I'm spending that money. Okay, so up on the screen now we have my financial spreadsheet, and for those of you that have been here before or seen some of my videos before, you'll recognize this and the layout of the spreadsheet and how we're going to go through it in a moment to kind of show you where my money's going to. But just a quick whistle stop tour if you're new here, this spreadsheet is what I use to track all of my finances every single month and also longer term as I build towards my ultimate goal of being able to retire early and achieving financial independence. So in this spreadsheet, there's a multiple array of tabs, and this one here that we're on at the moment, savings and investments tracker, is the one that we're going to spend the most time on today because that's just going to detail where my money's going and how it's being split out. But also we'll very quickly touch upon my retirement plan, which is a tab you can see down the bottom here. And also I'll click on it now just to show you, we've got my budget overview tab, and on this tab it shows you basically a full snapshot of my financial position at the moment. So at the top you've got all of the boxes that show my income, which pull out of my budget spreadsheet, and I've done a separate video and do a separate video every single month on my budget spreadsheet, my breakdown and how and where my money gets spent from my salary and side hustle earnings that I have. So if you're interested in going into a bit more granular detail on my budget and how I'm splitting my money, do check that video out. I'll link it down in the description below as well for you so that you can easily jump there and just have a look through at what and how I budget my money every month. But that all pulls through onto this budget overview tab that you see here. So it gives me a snapshot of all of my income and outgoings that I have, as well as the pie chart you have here of breaking down all of my expenditure, tracking my debt as well as I'm working to paying that down. And then there's also some numbers at the bottom here which kind of lean towards where my overall financial position is for saving things like emergency funds, pensions, and then it gives me an overall net worth picture. The numbers in here are low at the moment because we need to input them on the other spreadsheet. So we'll come back to this tab in a minute and it will show you where where we're at. But without delaying any further, let's go back to the savings and investments tab because this is where we're going to spend the most time today. So in here you can see clearly we've got three defined tabs that we're going to spend time on today. So we've got our emergency fund, which is this section here on the left hand side. So we'll come back in more detail on that in a second, but that is effectively me saving to have approximately 4 to 6 months of cash in a bank account ready to go if I were to lose my main source of income or anything like that means that I would need to dip into that pot. Having that money there is part of my kind of long-term financial plan. We then have my pensions. So I have two pensions that feed into this section. The first pension is my current workplace pension that I have from my job. So money goes into that every month from salary sacrifice before it comes through into my account. And then I also have my own personal pension, which is a combination of all of the previous pensions from my other jobs, all collected together in one. I've also done another video on how to do that, how to go and gather all of your pensions together, and also how to make the best use of your pensions. So I'll also link that video down in the description below. And if getting in control of your pension is something that you're really interested in, then do give that video a watch, because there'll be some helpful tips in there just to help you get control of your pension. So that's my pension section. And then over here on the far right hand side, we've got investments. So I also have, on top of my pensions, which go into investments, I also have a stocks and shares ISA with Trading 212 that I also use and put extra money into every month, just to keep topping up my numbers. That keeps me on track to be able to reach my financial independence number that I'm aiming for in the long term. So that's the three sections we've got here. So all that we need to do on this tab, just to show you how it works, is we'll bring through the numbers that come from my budget tracker that I've allocated for these areas. We'll bring those forward, we'll input them into this spreadsheet, and it will churn out where I am currently. So you can see some of the numbers down the bottom here, particularly in the pensions and the investment sections, are a little bit off and the percentages look a bit weird. That's because at the moment we're kind of zeros. We've zeroed those totals because we haven't put our final position for the month into here. So we'll do that shortly, and then we'll roll those numbers into February. But we're going to start with the emergency fund first of all. So for anyone that's already seen my budget video for this month, you'll know how much I'm putting towards this, but just for the purpose of this video, I will go back one tab and we will scroll down to the bottom here. And here you can see that in the investments and savings section, which I'll highlight for you, we're planning on putting £500 this month into my emergency fund, which is a fairly consistent amount that I've been paying in now for a few months. So if we go back to the savings and investments tab, and we are going to roll the number. So at the end of January, I had at the start of January last month, when I put my £500 in, I had 5,420. So I know that that's what I'm starting February with for this month. So we can put that number in there. And then also I know that I am adding £500 as discussed. And there's no interest payment because my interest payment is paid annually, and it will get paid to me in, I think it's March. I think it gets paid to me for this account. So no interest being paid. So when you put those two things together, it gives me a new total of 5,920, which is saved in my emergency fund. So if we go down to the bottom here, you can see that I've got that 5,920. It's currently highlighted in red because I haven't hit my objective yet. My objective is to have £7,000 by the end of the year saved in my emergency fund. So that tells me I've got £1,080 to go. So based on that £500 a month input, I'm well on track to obviously achieve this objective by the end of the month. So that's going really well. I'm really happy with how my emergency fund's progressing. But that is really it for emergency funds. They are so important for just giving you financial stability and being able to be flexible in your financial situation. So another topic I've covered in depth already on this channel, so I'll link that video down in the description below. There's a whole video dedicated to how to build an emergency fund, so I'll also link that down in the description below as well. So next we're going to move on to my pension section. Now we've covered emergency fund. So pensions is something that doesn't get covered in too much detail in my budget videos, because the money comes out before I pull together that budget spreadsheet basically. So the money doesn't come into that system because it's done via salary sacrifice, which in short means that the money for my pension gets taken out of my salary before tax is applied to my salary every single month. So it means the money never makes it through to my account. My employer takes it straight out and sends it across to straight into my pension. So yeah, that's what goes on with my pension in detail. So when we did this video last month and we went through this, I came into the year with £31,603 in my two pensions. As I mentioned at the start, I've got those two different pensions going on, one with my current workplace employer and one which is all of my previous pensions bundled together from my previous jobs, so that just I have control of them and I know where they are. Lots of people leave them in all of their other jobs and the previous pension pots from their other jobs, but I like to bring them all together so that I just know I have control over that money, because that money is mine ultimately. So yeah, we came in with £31,603 into the month, and at the start of January I put in £559, which is the amount of money that goes into my pension every month from my salary sacrifice. I'm not contributing any money to my other pension, that is all my pensions bundled together. That's just there so that I know I've got that money all bundled together. So all of this money goes straight into my workplace pension. So I know that I had £31,603 to start with. I put in £559, and then if I put in this box here, which I'm going to do in a second, the money that I was on at the end of January, that will then auto-populate this growth number to tell me how much my pension fund grew in the amount of January. So I know from checking my account that my account was on 31, or two accounts combined was on £31,918 for the end of the month. So we'll put that number in there, and then that updates and automatically tells me that actually in the month of January, through the month of January, my pensions actually regressed a little bit, went backwards, lost a little bit of money. Now, that's okay. That's going to happen lots and lots and lots of times as you build towards retirement in the future. Your pension is not something that's consistently going to grow. Your pension will likely be invested into the stock market, into ETFs, into funds, into various other different things that it could be invested into. And because of that, that means your assets are at risk, and that means they can go up as well as go down. And that's the thing with pensions. So you're going to see months where you're going to see that money shoot up, and then you're also going to see months where that money's also going to come down as well. So I put in £559 on top of the 31,603 I already had, but I came out with 31,918, which means I lost £244 last month. But as I say, I'm not worried about that. And what it does mean is I know that I can bring £31,918 down into the start of February, because that's where I am at the moment. So that's the start of the month, so I can put that in there. And I know that again this month I'm going to contribute £559, so I can also put that number in there as well. And then that leaves a nice spot for me to be able to put in the end total for February when we get to the end of February, and then it will tell me how much I grew in the month of February. Hopefully we'll see that number go back to positive, but I say the stock market is fairly turbulent at the moment. There's lots going on in the world, so not expecting too much kind of significant growth there at the moment, but there'll be plenty more time for that in the future. So yeah, not worried about that. So that's my overall pension position. I want to get my pensions, as you can see at the bottom here, to £37,000 by the end of the year, and I'm currently on £32,477, and then I've got left to save here £4,523. So that's how much money I've still got left to go to reach my pension objective. So all very much achievable for this year, I think. And then finally, we'll come across to the investment section over here. So as I mentioned at the top, this is a separate stocks and shares ISA I have that I contribute additional money to every month to keep me on track for my financial independence plan that I've got, which I'll show you at the end of the video, and making sure I'm staying on top of that, using a stocks and shares ISA to make sure I don't pay any tax or anything like that on the gains that I have. So that ISA, when I came into January, had £4,280 in it, as you can see here. This works exactly the same as the pensions tab. So again, I put money into it every month. So £150 I topped up in January, and then I put an end total in here, and it will tell me how much it grew. So hopefully I have that end total, which is £4,435. So that's why I know where we ended up for the month. So if I take that in there, press enter, you can see that it says that my account grew by the impressive amount of £4.98 last month on my stocks and shares that I've got. And in that account, I've got a separate video that, again, another one I'll link down in the description, which kind of details the breakdown of funds I've got in there. But I have that basically invested in generally global funds. I've got an S&P 500 fund that I invest some of that money into, which is covering the top companies in the US, the highest performing companies in the US. I've also got a global ETF that I invest into, a global fund which covers the largest companies in the world. And then I've got a developing markets ETF is the third element of that, which just helps capture some of the growth of some of the less prominent economies on the global scale, but that can also see some really big growth in some of their big companies. So I make sure I include that as part of my portfolio as well. But for the month of January, nothing too much happened. It was a fairly stagnant month. So a little bit of loss in my pension and just a £5 gain in my investments means that, yeah, not too much to write home about there for my investments. You can see that I want to get to £6,000 for my investments by the end of the year, and currently I'm 4,435. So yeah, just got a little bit of money left to go there, which is not too much, but again, definitely achievable with potential growth of this account. And then the last thing to do is just add that 4435 in there. And then, as I said, if we go back to my monthly budget tracker, you can see in the trading 212 ISA, I've got £150 that I'm going to contribute this month. So I'm going to put that £150 in there. And then we will wait until next month to input the final total to see how much it grew, exactly the same as the pension fund. So that really is how I split all of my money up that I'm putting towards savings for an emergency fund, then my pension and my investments every single month. The only thing that's really left to show you now for this video is my retirement plan, which I've spoken a lot about in this video so far. So I've mapped out the amount of money that I need to save every single month to be able to retire early. I initially set the objective of being able to retire by the age of 55. That was my plan. I'm 32 at the moment, at the time of recording this video. So what is that, 23 more years of working to be able to retire early. However, since mapping out this plan, which I'll put on the screen in a minute, I've been able to probably bring that down and looking towards a slightly younger age of kind of early 50s when I reach what I kind of define as the crossover point, which I'll touch upon on this tab. But yeah, so things are looking good in terms of being on track for early retirement. So if I put that plan on the screen here, which you can see, and I'm very sorry because this is really, really small because it has to cover the next 30 years of my life. So it's a very, very small number, but I'll just zoom it in slightly so that you can see here. So to keep it very, very short, here you look at the row 8 here highlighted, which is 2026. In there, it shows the amount of money that I need to invest every single month throughout the year to start building towards my objective. So it does that for every month of the year, and then every year all the way down until ultimately I would reach normal retirement age down the bottom. I think I've inputted it as 65 for now. It will actually be older by the time I come to retire, but for now, for the purpose of this, I've input it at 65. So yeah, this inputs all of the money that I put in every month to my pension and my investment accounts. It assumes a 7% growth rate as well, which is a fairly modest and average growth rate for stocks and shares over the last 20, 30, 40 years. That's kind of a fairly middle of the road average, so perfectly achievable to kind of get that amount of growth. And then it adds the growth onto the amount I've invested, gives me a number at the end, which is the projected total, and then so on. That projected total comes down to the next line, so row 9, and we add the money again, and so on and so forth. So if we fly all the way through this down to a cell that I've highlighted here, row 28, so that actually shows when I would reach what I define as the crossover point, which means I'm earning more money from my investments than I'm earning from my salary. So my salary at the moment, as mentioned in my budget video, if you haven't seen it so far, comes out just over £50,000 a year. So on this current track record, to reach over £50,000 a year in growth on my investments, I'm on track to reach that in roughly 2046. That's what the plan currently has me mapped out of achieving that number. So yeah, not as far away as I would think, to be honest. That's 20 years away, which means I'd be very early 50s when I'd be retiring, which is great to kind of see that and see how possible that is. I've also got the initial plan semi-retirement down here was going to be 2050, 2051. Based on me being that age as discussed earlier. And then also it's important to point out that as it currently stands, our mortgage wouldn't be paid off by then. So I have put a note in here of when our mortgage would be paid off, which is currently on track to be 2055. So that's what we're looking at for our mortgage. However, we're hoping to, and I'm going to do some separate videos on mortgages, how to get the most of them, how best to remortgage, because we're going through that process at the moment to try and get better interest rate, take some years off of the money that you owe to get the payments down. So that is a very whistle-stop tour of my retirement plan. As I say, I'm on track at the moment. So the February input there you can see was £709. I put in £559 into my pension, £150 went into my stocks and shares ISA, which means that I hit my goal of £709. So yeah, on track, which is great, and yeah, has my finances on track for that long-term goal of early retirement. So that's how I'm going to be saving and investing my money for the month of February. Hopefully you found that video useful, and there was a few good tips in there on perhaps how to split up your money, focusing on making sure you've got control of your pensions, setting up a stocks and shares ISA if you haven't already. There's a few little anecdotes that will hopefully help you build towards your long-term financial goals, and if being financially independent is what you're seeking to do, hopefully it will help you build towards that in particular. But as I say, hopefully this video was really useful and you learned something from it. I'm going to be doing lots more videos on kind of personal finance, how to grow your money, bit of finance education in there, side hustles, all those types of things. So if you want to see more content along those lines, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give this video a like as well, it really helps. And other than that, all that's really left for me to say is I look forward to seeing you in the next video.